All right, looks like we should be recording.
Okay. Well, welcome to our first educational event for 2025. I'm Susan Lea. I'm the board chair, and I'm here with Alane Swain, who is the new executive director of MHA of Spartanburg County. So, Elaine, I'd like to invite you to introduce yourself.
Absolutely. Well, the first thing, starting by pronouncing my name correctly, is means the most to me. Obviously, you've known me before, but as Susan said, Alane Swain, and starting as the executive director for MHA of Spartanburg County. And I think going along with that introduction is perhaps an introduction to my background. So that's the purpose of today, is learning a little bit more about me and maybe why I find myself in this seat here with MHA-Spartanburg. So really kind of from the start, was my first professional experience was being active duty in the Air Force for 10 years. I was a nurse by trade, and that included inpatient nursing, outpatient nursing, some leadership and admin positions, and kind of everything in between. And so doing that over 10 years, I got many opportunities, not only to treat patients, but to get to know the people around me. And through doing that, I really developed a passion, especially for leadership and mentorship, but for why I'm here today, education and training as well. So I taught a variety of safety courses within the Air Force and kind of honed what it looked like to advance the mission of zero harm. In that case, it
Mhm.
was zero harm from healthcare providers. We were hoping that there was no unintended harm that occurred within our facilities. But I think it drives really well into the mental health realm of that zero harm of, if we can reduce the stigma, people can seek the treatment that they need. They won't be harming themselves. They won't be harming others, certainly being the hope. And that education piece, which MHA-Spartanburg has done well for a while. Um, After I was active duty, I spent some time with corporate education over at Spartanburg Regional and really got to know the nuts and bolts of continuing education. And that's where I hope is going to translate well for MHA Spartanburg. Additionally, that we can provide that continuing education for our clinicians, but still serve our laypersons really well additionally. So that's a little bit about my professional background and why I find myself here today.
As I was listening to it, what stood out to me was that from early on, your um, your work involved service, care, and compassion. I mean, military service is certainly an exemplary, dedicated, wholehearted service, right? It requires all of you. Um, and as a nurse, that's definitely a role that draws on and requires compassion. And so I think those are qualities that will serve Executive Director of MHA Spartanburg very well. Um, so you have been our Executive Director for how long now?
We started turnover with Dr. Gainey at the beginning of December, so I think we've hit our 30-day mark. So
Mhm. And so of course during that time we had the start of the new year, right? So it's a great time as we're planning for the new year to look ahead. And as you are new to MHA, you're a little bit new to um, South Carolina and Spartanburg, is that right?
that's true. Yeah, we've been here a little over 2 years, actually in person here in Spartanburg County.
hmm And so how does that affect um, your entry into nonprofit here in the upstate?
Sure. I think being new anywhere means you have a lot to learn, and I've definitely found that to be true being in the area. But the wonderful thing about it is I feel like I've had a lot of people already helping me out. So thankfully, as you know, being the advisory board chair, but for anyone who doesn't know, we've got a wonderful advisory board full of members who have a variety of backgrounds, a few clinicians, but primarily folks who have an interest in Spartanburg County in particular, in helping people in Spartanburg County and in mental health. And so I've definitely, it's been a huge help to me when an advisory board member has said, hey, I've attended this training before. One example of that is the Grassroots Leadership Development Institute. They said, I've attended this before. It was a great way to meet other people in the community. I think this would be great for you. And I'm thankful anytime someone says that, because it gives me an opportunity to learn more of these opportunities in the area. And so I'm hopeful to be able to go to formal trainings like that. And there's some others that have been presented to me as well. I think that's going to help increase my awareness of the community, of what the people are like, what they find important, what they need, those sorts of things, and find
Mhm,
ways that we can provide that help to them. And then
mhm,
additionally, it's just looking for informal ways as well. I've been introduced to a lot of other folks in the nonprofits sphere. I've been even just stopped when I've been attending another event. They said, hey, I'm so and so. It's so nice to meet you. I hear you're working with MHA, because I think that's the nice thing about MHA-Spartanburg and
mhm,
the fact that we're an affiliate of a national organization, a national nonprofit, that there's so many people who are willing to come up and say, we know them. We want to get to know you now, and we want to teach you more
mhm,
about Spartanburg County. So I think
mhm,
between a mix of formal opportunities to learn more and those informal meetings, and me just not being afraid to say, hi, I'm Alane, I'm new here. What
mhm.
can you tell me? So I think I've learned a lot already, and I'm gonna get a lot of opportunities to learn more about the Spartanburg community and how I can help as the executive director of MHA, and just the folks of Spartanburg County in general.
Absolutely. And too, being relatively, you're not brand new, but being relatively new to the area, um, presents the opportunity to bring in, new and different perspectives from your different experiences. So I see this as an absolute growth opportunity, and it's a great time for it. Here we are, January 2025. What's in store? And maybe we should take a moment and go over the mission.
Absolutely. So, particularly for our folks on the call who may be watching this after, who are just learning about MHA Spartanburg for the first time. As I had mentioned, we are a county affiliate of a state and a national organization. So we, like other county affiliates, have things that we do pretty well and that have kind of become our niche, if you will. And so for us specifically, there are other missions, certainly with MHA as a whole. But for Spartanburg County, we're looking to aim to promote positive mental health, raise awareness about mental illness, reduce stigma, which prevents seeking treatment, and initiate the crucial community conversation on these topics. And then within that, certainly our education that we provide through a variety of events throughout the year are really the big driving force to help us push that mission forward and make sure that we're serving Spartanburg County well in that way. So I think, if other folks know of, maybe they know of the Greenville County affiliate, they're able to staff their affiliate just a little bit differently. So maybe they can do some other things than we do. But the nice thing about being part of that national nonprofit is we get to work together. We can serve both communities really well with our variety of ways we do it, with education really being our focus.
Mm. That's a great example because even though MHA Greenville and Greenville are just, depending on traffic, 30 minutes down the road, our two affiliates are very, very different. And so to be able to complement each other and to draw on those resources, I think is great. The other thing that I know we've done before is to be able to tailor what we present, educationally, I mean, to our local community. So, what do our local clinicians feel they need? We get some great resources from national, and we're going to be drawing on those a little more so in the coming year. And I'm looking forward to that. But we also are able to get feedback and input from our local clinicians and lay people on what they want and need to hear. Um, so I think our we have two signature events, and our first one is Be Kind to Your Mind. Elaine, what is the date for that? And how's that event looking so far?
I know I've been getting some updates and I'm already excited to attend it this year. So this will be the fourth annual. It's the first Saturday in May, so it'll be May 3rd this year from 5 p.m. to 7 p.m. And I was, as I've learned about that, I think, one of the great things about it, it's free to the community. It's not driven toward clinicians. So it's really anyone who has an interest in learning more about the people behind mental health and driving that positive mental health and that advocacy in Spartanburg County is really what that event is for. Getting to highlight folks through the Bailey Award is also awesome. And, that's someone who works and lives in Spartanburg County and really has a passion and a drive for advancing, the conversation for reducing the stigma on mental health. So that's just a great event
Mhm.
that I hope many people will choose to attend. And, I was really glad that you highlighted that we get feedback, particularly from our clinicians on what they want to see with the continuing education that we're able to provide. But we can also hear from lay people as well, and we have.
Mhm.
They
Mhm.
may have said, I want to learn more about substance use disorder. And that's not treating them as a clinician. That may be that they have someone in their life, whether it's someone they love or someone they know that's struggling with that. And they want to learn how they can maybe be more gentle or maybe understanding or more helpful to those people. So, I definitely want to echo what you said and encourage anyone to let us know what we can get a national resource for or a local resource for that we can
Mhm.
teach more about to our clinician or our lay people, again, to reduce that stigma and help people to get treatment. So
Mhm. And Be Kind to Your Mind just has sort of an upbeat, positive feel. Um, and the Bailey Award was named after the artist Bailey, who through his experiences with his mental health, went on to create some specific art pieces, their sculptures, and interviewed other people and involved their stories in an exhibit that traveled quite a bit. And I believe he may be bringing that back in this coming year.
awesome.
And so we're looking forward to being part of that. But again, the award was named after Bailey, the first person who received it. But this whole event actually came out of, was first prompted by a high school student who approached MHA and said, "Hey, I was thinking about doing something and maybe having some musicians play music." And Kathy McCabe connected with that young lady, and Be Kind to Your Mind is what was born out of that. Um, the other signature event we have is the Mental Health Symposium. And do you want to highlight a little bit about that, Elaine?
Absolutely. And I just wanted to, I'm so glad you touched on, the youth in the community that have been very impactful with MHA Spartanburg and certainly everyone who knows Kathy McCabe knows what a force she is, knows how connected she is. And I mean, she's always doing something for Spartanburg
Mm.
County. So I'm glad certainly that you mentioned them because you don't have to be an adult. And certainly
Mhm.
we hope that before you're an adult, you're getting plugged into your community, particularly as it relates to mental health. We have wonderful youth that are, Isaac is on our board. We've had other youth members that have been able to
Mhm.
step up. I know Zuri through her work with, I believe it's pageants, if I'm not mistaken.
Mhm.
She's
Mhm.
mental health, her platform. And I'm so glad that they haven't been afraid to step up and say, we don't know what we can offer, but we can offer, as it turns out, a whole lot. So thank you for highlighting
Absolutely.
them. But yeah, certainly with our symposium, so that'll be in October. It's going to be our 10th annual. So that's, I know for those of you who have been involved a little bit longer than I am, it probably is a surprise to you that we're already at 10. But that'll once again be at the Piedmont Club. And for those who are familiar with Spartanburg County, they know, gosh, what a wonderful venue that is. How nice the people are there, just from top to bottom. All the servers and Mr. Terry and Miss Wanda and everyone else are just a wonderful place. So we're happy to be able to be there again. And so with our symposium versus Be Kind to Your Mind, symposium really is a little bit more directed toward our clinicians because we are specifically providing continuing education topics, presentations that are going to be very helpful to them in their practices and as they're meeting their patients where they're at. I know for me, that was the first event back in 2023 where I really became aware of you all from the planning of it and then actually attending the event. And I just remember being so inspired just from the very first presentation. I remember it was Allison Huey with musical therapy, and she was able to
Mhm.
put to words and demonstration what I had felt for a long time, how my brain works. Because my brain, I always have a song in my head, and many times I choose to express myself with lyrics as opposed to original thought. And then it just went on from there, whether it was Dr. Frishy, Mary Knight talking on, I believe it was DBT. I could,
DBT, a 20-year retrospective. And so I don't mean to interrupt, but that
I don't know.
presentation, I thought it's going to be 20 years of like a timeline. And it was so much more. It was absolutely a fantastic presentation.
Yeah, it really was. And that, even, for me, not having been a clinician, I could still, one of the things, in addition to just the speakers and their presentation style and their expertise and information they shared, but the attendees, um, everyone's been in a room where people are afraid to ask a question of a presenter, or they're afraid to ask a question there were almost 100 people in the room, and that just isn't the case at our symposium. People ask very thought-provoking questions, they're engaged, and the nice thing too is I've seen Mary Knight out at other events of ours since then, and she's
Hmm.
just so kind and asks how she can help and how she can attend and do those sorts of things. So not only are we able to bring in speakers and presenters who are truly experts on their topics, but there are people who want to continue to stay involved in the community. And I think that's awesome too. So certainly,
Hmm.
I hope that many folks will be attending our 10th annual symposium in October.
Mhm. And I think too that is one of the benefits of the symposium. I mean, certainly there's the quality educational experience, because again, we do seek experts, or people with expertise, I should say. Um, but it's that feel of being with peers and with clinicians and making connections, so a lot of really good networking comes out of the symposium or happens
Absolutely.
during it. And then the other thing is at the symposium, we have our mental health advocate awards.
Mm,
So we are in our third year already, fourth. It'll be the fourth. We're right behind the Be Kind.
mhm.
And Elaine, would you like to talk just a little bit about the awards?
Yeah, absolutely. So with those awards, I believe are there four of them that we give out? So I know, particularly, I remember the Lifetime Achievement Awards, and those have really been impactful to see those presentations and to hear more about these people who, for not even just one calendar year, but have given many years of their lives to furthering the mission of reducing the stigma and ensuring people seek treatment for their mental health, being advocates for mental health within our community. So those that award in particular stuck out to me. We give out a youth award. Again,
Mhm.
you don't have to be an adult to be interested in or make a difference in mental health within our community. And then I know there are two other awards that have a little trouble remembering exactly what they're for, but those two in particular stick out to me, the youth and the
Sure.
Lifetime Achievement Award.
So we've done an advocate of
Mhm.
the year. So somebody who's done something within the recent year that contributed greatly to advocacy for mental health. And we've done both a clinician as an advocate as well as a non-clinician. And again, going back to listening to our audience, our constituents. It was one of our um, followers who, when we sent out the call for awards, nominated the Charles Lee Center. And I thought that was great.
Absolutely.
So our awards have shifted just a little as we've gotten additional feedback. Um, and so those are our signature events, the Be Kind to Your Mind and the Mental Health Symposium. And then we have our educational series. Now, typically we have 6 of those a year, every other month. And this would have been and is the first for this year, but it's a little different. Do you want to talk about that a little bit, Elaine?
Absolutely. So I know, as has been done in the past when we've had a little bit of transition in leadership, it is nice to be able to start the year with maybe getting to know a little bit more about the person who's sitting in the seat as the executive director. But then throughout the rest of the year, with those every other month on that second Thursday, having those ed series where we'll be able to provide continuing education credit for those two. Unfortunately, none today. I wish that I could give an hour of continuing education credit for just getting to sit and talk with a friend. But from here on out, we'll be able to provide some continuing education credit for our clinicians. But I really think that the topics, again, apply to everyone, because half of our
Mhm,
mission is educating clinicians, the other half being lay people. And so I'm already looking forward to March with Dr. Frishy. Again, she was one
mhm,
of our presenters at the symposium in 2023, and just to hear, having met her then and then seeing her again in my new role, to see what she's done. I know she's been in the prison system for the last several months, and with a particular focus on MAT. And she's just
mhm,
so passionate and so driven. And she, I hope that she's starting to get some more help, because what she's doing is so needed within our
mhm,
community, and the education on it in particular. So I'm excited that she's going to be with us in March for our next Ed series.
mhm,
And we've got a great partner in the Mary Black Foundation. Most of our events are hybrid. Obviously, this one with me, not hybrid today, and in July will also be virtual only. But all the others are hybrid, so people can come in person. They can listen to these dynamic speakers. They can learn on these topics. They can ask questions that they have in real time. And even if you're on the Zoom, you can ask questions real time within the chat feature, in addition to what they have decided to present for that day. But yeah, I definitely hope that a lot of folks are able to attend those. But another great thing is we record those. They're available on our YouTube channel. So if you think to yourself, gosh, I attended that and I just don't, she made some specific point about XYZ thing. Luckily, you
mhm,
can go back to YouTube, you can watch it again. And then certainly, anytime anyone has a question, they can email us at the info@MHA-Spartanburg.org email address,
mhm,
and we'd be happy to answer or make that connection as well. So our Ed series, and particularly being able to provide that continuing education credit, I think
mhm,
is a huge part of our educational
mhm.
mission.
Yeah, absolutely. And in terms of making this education and information truly accessible, these events are free to attend. The Ed series, which are 1 hour in length every other month, there is no charge. There is only a charge, if a small charge, if a clinician wants a continuing ed credit. And as Elaine said, these are recorded and available on our YouTube channel. You can follow us on Facebook and find a link from there, or it's on our website. And so if you miss the event completely, I know I have a challenging schedule, I can go back and watch that at a later date. And
Absolutely.
in 2024, we also did a couple of special events. One of them, we had I Trust Wellness come in and do a luncheon and talk a little bit about how they work with people and their psychiatric care. And so that really got a lot of people talking. And they're coming back in May to talk about psychiatric medications. But also, we will be doing some other special events. Those are still in the works. And the other thing that we did new last year was the corporate wellness educational events, where we went into corporate. local community corporations who invited us in and asked for an educational event on mental health and wellness, as well as some signs to look for and when and how to access treatment. So if anybody is interested in that, absolutely reach out to Alane. Thanks to our advisory board, and we are a working board. We now have our new executive director, but we also have a team behind her so that we can work to meet that need as those needs um, are presented to us. The
Absolutely.
last thing on my list, Elaine, is our Friends campaign. Would you like to talk a little bit about Friends of MHA-Spartanburg?
I would. So, for those who have participated in before, this will be familiar to you, but if you're unfamiliar with being a friend of MHA, these are really folks who, again, they don't have to be clinicians, and most of them live within the Spartanburg community and can see where their impact goes. But our Friends campaign we do every November, and these are folks, and we're into the triple digits now of Friends of MHA, at least professed Friends of MHA. We like to think we have many, but that's our opportunity to raise some funds, raise some awareness about MHA, and when we send out the letters, we get to say what we've done over the year. And I think that's particularly important because I think, if anyone has asked for funds or time, but they're unable to say what it goes to, it may not inspire anyone to donate their funds and time again. So I think that's one of the things I like about the letter in particular. It's if you haven't been able to make our Ed series or one of our events, we're able to catch you up on what we've been up to for the year. But it's also just kind of um, you know, a time where people can say, we have been to your events and we know how important they are, and we would like to continue to support those, or we have been a benefit of some of the education you provided in other ways, or someone we love has been a benefit of that education or an ability to give those national resources, being part of the bigger nonprofit that we are. And they're able to say, we appreciate that. But it's also, being our friend is not necessarily just being able to donate of funds, but also sometimes of time. And sometimes that time is attending an educational series, or if you can't attend, like you said, watching it on YouTube after, or maybe sharing it on your social media so other people can attend it. I think the definition of a friend of MHA has grown so much, and all of it is so valuable to us. As you mentioned, we do have a working board, but there's also life comes up. There might be a year where it's more challenging for some of our board members to give of their time as they have been able to in the past. And that's where a lot of times we've seen friends step up and be able to fill some of those gaps by, maybe they attend our event and they bring a friend, or like I said, sharing it
Mhm.
on their social media or letting someone else know, hey, here's MHA Spartanburg. If you've never heard of them before, I want to tell you something about them. So that word of mouth, that faith in us that we're doing good work for good causes, is just as big of a part of being a friend of MHA as anything else is. So we definitely rely heavily on our friends, to continue to be able to put on the events that we do, provide the resources that we do, and provide that education. So yeah, we can't thank our friends enough, for
Mhm.
believing in us and continuing to support us in the ways that they do.
Absolutely. And I see we've got on the call Maggie Gainey, who has dedicated many, many countless hours to MHA in multiple roles. She was our first executive director, and then she transitioned off into the board due to changes in her job requirements. And then when we had a transition in leadership, she stepped back in as interim executive director, which was much needed and much appreciated. And
So,
now we are welcoming her back to the board because we have our new executive director, Elaine. And so I just want to acknowledge that and thank Maggie for her continued dedication to MHA Spartanburg and for really helping us be able to make it through those transitions. Um, Elaine, is there anything else that we um, want to touch on?
I think I'll just and certainly echo what you said about Dr. Gainey of just she's been so giving of her time and her expertise and her resources. And I just will any chance I get will continue to thank her. Um, and humble as always, she says it's been her pleasure there in the chat, but just very much thankful for her leadership and her expertise. As you mentioned, there have been multiple times that she stepped up for MHA-Spartanburg, and that's just truly speaks to her character and how she is. And again with the advisory board, just thanking you all for welcoming me into the fold and not being afraid to email me and say, hey, what about this opportunity? Let's consider it. Or here's how we've typically done things. Here's some challenges, but especially those opportunities that y'all have given to me as I've been learning has been invaluable. And just again, you in particular, Susan, have been giving of your time. You don't have any free time, quite frankly, but you've been giving of it, and I thank you for that. And any other board members who have reached out and said hello or sent an email or given a call and given opportunities, because I think, kind of looking ahead with MHA, we've touched on kind of the events for the year, and some of those things that are scheduled, but just looking forward, I want to continue to do the things that we've always done well. I want to continue to do our Ed series well, our Be Kind, our symposium, those signature events. But I do want to look forward to the different ways that we can continue to grow, the opportunities we can take advantage of. As you mentioned, the
Mhm.
corporate partnerships. I'm so glad that our our presence in the community in Spartanburg County has allowed corporations to seek us out and say, hey, we hear you do education well, we want the education. I hope that continues to happen, that more and more corporations say, we want that help and we want that ability to meet you and learn from you. As well, there's so many wonderful other nonprofits and organizations within the county that we already partner with, whether it's Carolina Center for Behavioral Health, whether it's NAMI, whether it's iTrust, whether it's the Behavioral Health Task Force. And I, certainly don't want to leave anyone off by naming a few, but those are just some that I've already seen in my month.
Mhm.
I just want to see us continue to grow those partnerships because our combined efforts can really help us help the community that much more. So I'm definitely
Mhm.
looking forward to, as we've had this transition of leadership, continuing to hold up, what we've done before, but continue to look for new opportunities where we can reduce that stigma to seeking treatment for mental health, where we can educate our clinicians and our lay people that much better. So I'm definitely excited, and just appreciate the time today to speak a little bit more about myself, speak a little bit more about MHA-Spartanburg, and yeah.
Well, and I think um, we've touched on this a couple times about listening to uh, feedback that we receive and inviting ideas and that kind of thing. So I just want to reiterate that Alane can be reached at our email address, which is info@mha-spartanburg.org,
Mhm.
and I'll put that in the chat. And so if anybody has ideas or has a need for, a certain kind of education, we may not be able to do everything, but we absolutely are open to doing everything that we can. We've got quite a few things in the works for this year, but everything is not finalized. And so I just want to invite those ideas. And if somebody wants to be part of an event but cannot commit to the board, we welcome that too.
Absolutely. But like you said, we may not be able to do every single idea that we hear, but where we're able, we're going to try to do as many as we can that can help better the mental health in the Spartanburg community. So yeah, definitely looking forward to the ideas. I think people haven't been shy already in telling us what they would like to learn or what they would like to see. And I hope that that continues and that we get even more folks who are letting us know, here's some ways you can serve us.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Elaine, I'm super excited for a year ahead. I'm looking forward to your leadership and to those qualities and those areas of expertise that you bring to the position. You have been wonderful to work with in your role in corporate ed, and so I just feel like this is going to be a great year for MHA Spartanburg.
Well, I appreciate that. You all have been wonderful to work with as well. And when I guess one final parting word I'd say is I said thank you to a few people, on the board who have already been helpful, but there are a few other folks on the call who I've known for a really long time, who took some time out of their day to hang out with us. And I just can't thank them enough for their support. And I know that that's going to be integral to me in stepping into this role particularly as I'm learning new things within Spartanburg County, knowing that I've got great support, whether it's back home or across the driveway, and that they'll continue to support me. And I just want to thank them for that as well.
So, all right. Well, thank you for listening for our listeners, and thank you for your time, Elaine. And I look forward to working with you.
As I do with you.